In the early hours of a day that would be etched into history, the unthinkable happened. San Francisco, a city perched on the edge of the Pacific, awoke to distant tremors. Reports of a powerful undersea earthquake, stronger than anything recorded in decades, began circulating among scientists and emergency services. As alarms blared and screens flickered with early warnings, a surge of fear spread throughout local communities. This was no ordinary seismic event.
Within minutes, experts at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center issued stark alerts. A massive tsunami was racing towards the west coast. Unlike the gently rolling swells that often graced San Francisco's shoreline, this wave was a wall of water, moving at incredible speed. The city had faced earthquakes. It had weathered storms and fires. But a tsunami of this magnitude? Never before. As the city's emergency response team scrambled into position, preparations unfolded in a tense, urgent blur. Sirens wailed along the Embarcadero. Airport officials at San Francisco International rushed to coordinate the evacuation of flights, staff, and passengers. Traffic snarled on the highways as residents in low-lying neighborhoods sought higher ground, many abandoning their vehicles and possessions in their desperation to escape. Then, nearing the Golden Gate, the horizon darkened. The tsunami's leading edge, a monstrous surge dwarfing all boats, piers, and even parts of the city's iconic bridges, tightened its assault. Locals and tourists watched in frozen disbelief as the wall of water thundered ashore. In seconds, the graceful curve of Crissy Field was erased. The bay's marinas, once filled with bobbing yachts and laughter, vanished beneath the churning foam and debris. Downtown San Francisco reeled as floodwaters barreled through. Storefronts shattered. Streets became rivers. Cars tossed and piled haphazardly against buildings. BART tunnels filled fast, cutting off transit and trapping those who had not yet reached safer elevations. The Presidio groaned under a deluge of salt water, mud, and shattered driftwood. To the south, the situation grew ever more critical. San Francisco International Airport, a sprawling complex sitting at the edge of the bay, found itself squarely in the tsunami's path. In mere moments, runways were submerged, hangars engulfed by relentless waves. Aircraft, some taxiing for early morning departures, were overwhelmed and swept inland. Emergency staff guided passengers to higher floors as the lower terminal filled with turbulent water and debris. Electronic systems failed. The glow of runway lights blinked out, replaced by the roar of water crashing through the glass of arrival lounges, baggage claims, and restaurants. The airport's international reach, usually a hub of movement and connection, was silenced in chaos. Jet bridges snapped. Airplanes eerily floated, massive engines no match for the power of the Pacific. Access roads buckled and vanished under the weight of water and wreckage. Rescue helicopters hovered above the chaos, braving erratic winds to winch stranded survivors to safety. Each successful rescue felt like a miracle as the storm surge continued its assault. Throughout San Mateo, Daly City, and South San Francisco, floodwaters pressed ever further inland. Suburbs that once seemed distant from the waterfront became islands in a new, unfathomable landscape. Cell service failed in many areas, leaving loved ones isolated and anxious. The sound of sirens, shouts, and distant helicopter blades wove through neighborhoods now more water than land. As first responders risked their own lives to aid those trapped in basements and on rooftops, stories of heroism and heartbreak unfolded. Shelter centers filled quickly with residents, travelers, and airport staff. Makeshift clinics treated the injured, some suffering from hypothermia, others battered by debris. As power grids failed and night fell, the city's silhouette was redrawn by darkness and silence, interrupted only by the flashlights and lanterns of those searching for missing friends and loved ones. Entire blocks lay inundated. Sandbags and flood barriers, quickly assembled in the hours before, proved futile against the relentless force of the tsunami. In the hours and days that followed, officials would come to realize the true scope of the devastation. Much of the San Francisco International Airport would remain shuttered, its infrastructure heavily damaged. Planes lay ruined, terminals choked with mud, salt, and seaweed. Landing strips, once the welcoming arms of the Bay Area, were barely recognizable through tangles of debris and stranded vehicles. The losses in the city were echoed throughout the region. Families mourned those lost to the waves, while community leaders rallied to provide shelter and comfort to the displaced. Across the bay, in Oakland and Berkeley, the effects were also felt. Ports flooded, neighborhoods left in mourning, and a deep sense of vulnerability settling like a shadow. Despite the overwhelming destruction, stories of resilience began to emerge. Rescue teams, reinforced by National Guard units and neighboring cities, worked tirelessly around the clock. Volunteers from all walks of life converged on relief centers, preparing meals, distributing clothing, and offering support where they could. The city's vast network of tech, industry, and innovation pivoted to restoration efforts, using drones for search and communication, and coordinating vital aid through social media and emergency apps. Slowly the water receded. The outlines of once familiar streets became visible again, though scars remained. Uprooted trees, collapsed houses, piles of detritus carried miles from their original homes. Environmental teams began assessing the impact on the bay's sensitive ecosystems, bracing for the challenges of cleanup and restoration. But perhaps most profoundly, the spirit of San Francisco's people endured. Neighbors helped neighbors clear mud from homes. Artists painted murals on battered walls, honoring those lost and celebrating the courage of survivors. As planes diverted to alternate airports and international travelers shared stories of survival, the world witnessed the determination of a city facing nature's deadliest fury. In weeks to come, recovery would be slow and sometimes painful. New plans would be drafted to defend against the ocean's unpredictable might. Old landmarks, once damaged, would rise anew. Through grief and hardship, the legacy of the deadliest tsunami to ever strike the San Francisco Bay would leave an indelible mark, not just on the city's skyline and infrastructure, but upon the hearts and minds of all who called this remarkable place home. Through every challenge, the people of San Francisco would remember the day the ocean came, and how, even in the face of immense loss, they came together to rebuild, heal, and hope.